Hey everybody, welcome back to Frigid North. Today is part 2 of our 2007 Toyota Highlander fuel pump replacement video. We have received all the parts and we're ready to get this vehicle going again. We ordered an array of parts here. The Toyota does not offer a fuel pump that's a combined unit that we were able to find. There was an aftermarket unit that was combined, but I'm really hesitant to use aftermarket fuel pumps, and I've just been burned on them. So I'd like to go authentic if I can. And the customer agreed with that. He appreciated that. And so he was willing to wait for the parts to arrive. And Toyota was just gonna sell me all these piecemeal parts anyway. You know, it was gonna cost like almost 800 bucks for the pump. Doing it like this, it saved quite a bit of money to do that. And we have the same pump that's in there. It's a Denso pump that's in the original manufacturer. And then we have a couple parts here that are authentic Toyota parts, and then we have a strainer here or a filter here that's not really authentic, but it's a filter. And so anyway, we've got everything here, and so what we're going to be doing now is we're going to run you through on removing the pump, and then we're going to bring it to the bench, and then we're going to dismantle that, because that's a unit that's attached with the fuel level sender, and so that does not get replaced with this outfit, so we need to transfer that over as well as the new components. And so we're going to go ahead and get started on that. All right, so we're back inside the car to replace this pump. So just a couple things, housekeeping issues. So you want to be sure, we've already done this, but you want to be sure to blow off any loose dirt and debris from around this pump area. And try to minimize how forceful you do it, because this is inside the car. Just be mindful of that. Maybe put a couple rags over and blow it out, and then check it and redo as you need. But get that debris out, because you don't want that falling down into your tank, because then you have another issue. So just a couple things that you would also need here are just a bunch of rags. Have them handy, because when you pull the pump out, it's going to be messy. And so because it's incredibly messy, have yourself a catch can too, to be able to transfer that pump right into it right away, because it's going to have a bunch of fuel in it. All right, so just, you want to be prepared for it. And my rule is, if you're prepared, it won't happen. If you're not prepared, it's going to happen. That seems to be the thing that goes on in life. So be sure that you are ready for that. All right, so the first thing you're going to do is pull your connector off, which we've already done. And then you're going to disconnect your fuel line clip, retainer clip. And these ones just spread out a little bit, and then it pulls back. And then you just pull that out like so. Keep that where you're not going to lose it, and then your line should just pop right up and off. Let that drain a little bit. Now is the time to understand no electronics. So no drills, no pumps, no vacuums. Everything out now is air operated only, if you have to use something like that, or just by hand. Okay, so there's a few ways of getting this retainer off. These have been known to seize on there and be very difficult to get off, which is why we bought a new one. So there's a couple of official tools that you can use. One is this BluePoint tool, FLR 640. It's just a generic, universal fit. You make it fit to where it goes over the splines and down along the flange of the cap. And like so. And let me go get that cap so I can show it to you right in front of the camera. So what I'm referring to is, you have these splines right here, and you want that tool to go down onto that flange. And so that would sit just like so. Just like that. So you want it to sit down on this flange, and then you should be able to rotate that off. The problem with this tool is it's only got 2 legs, so you can get a little floppy with it. And so that's a concern there. The other tool that I'm probably most likely going to have the best success with is this deal right here. And it goes right along the top of that retainer. However, it's got little curved feet that go along the over the top of that retainer, and it sits on there just like so. And so that also gives you a good rotational force, and it doesn't make it all wobbly, because you have 4 points of contact. which means you can put a pretty good amount of pressure on it as you're turning, because you're going to need to put pressure on it. So this is most likely going to be our best bet. Now, if you don't have a tool or don't want to spend the money on it, that's understandable. There's other ways you can do it. One is you can take a long screwdriver and tap up against these, and just in various spots. You know, you want to tap it here, tap it there, tap it there, tap there, until you start getting it to rotate. If this was a metal retainer, which a lot of them are, you don't want to be smacking a metal component against that metal ring and creating a spark, because again, we have a huge volatile source right below us. So we don't want to be causing that spark and causing a big issue. I don't want to go through the roof, and that'd be a bad day. So, but with this, it's plastic, it's not a big deal. A brass drift is best, and then you don't have to worry about it. One other option that is out there that you can do is you just simply cut the ring off. You cut a couple notches in different spots, remove the pressure, and it'll come right out. I'm not sure which one to use. You know, we might get fortunate, you know, get lucky with this one, and it might work, and we won't know if that one's actually better or not. They're both Chinese. BluePoint is the Chinese line of Snap-on, and so it still comes from the other side of the ocean. But yeah, we're gonna get this one a shot and see how it does, just so we can say we tried it. That's a 14mm socket on this one, and just a long ratchet will give you some nice leverage. Now we don't have a lot of throw here, just because of the confinement of this cab. So let's see what happens here. And one thing it might do is it might actually spin the pump, which is what it looks like it's doing already. Yep, spinning the pump. That was a problem that you can have with these things. So, that stinks. One thing you don't want to do is damage the sending unit that's inside, because you don't want to replace that too. Yeah, so yeah, we might wind up breaking this thing off, cutting this cap out. Oh, it went. Look at that. It's spinning, so we don't have to break it off. That's good, because I didn't really feel like doing that. Now be careful of this line. You don't want to damage that either. There are line repair kits that you can buy in case you do break that. And they're real fragile. They can just, you move them out of the way and they can pinch on you. So just be mindful of that. Yeah, I think that's probably the case, actually. Should be good enough there. There we go. All right, pump is free. One thing you can do, since you have already bought the ring, just in case, right? You could just snip those off and call it good, and just throw it away. Because cheap insurance, good thing to have, and just consider it as part of the pump. And let's get our catch can up here. Now, one thing you would want to definitely do is remember your orientation of the pump when it went in. Now, you want to be ginger with this, and because you have a fuel sender on there. Now, I don't know where that is, so I got to find that. It's right there. So as you pull it out, let the fuel drain. Try to make sure it drains back into the tank. And you got this fuel sender arm right through here. That's just where it wound up being because it spun on us just a little bit. So just tilt it enough to get that arm out without damaging it. And then once you do that, right in the bucket. Simple, easy peasy. All right. Now, one thing you don't want to do is when you go to the bench and transfer the stuff over, don't close the door for the car. Leave it open. That way these fumes can air out and they have a place to go. They don't just build up inside the car and then you got a huge bomb waiting for you. So and what you would notice is if you have water in the tank, it'll look like a little puddle of discolored fluid floating along the bottom. It'll be just sitting there, and you may not see it move at all. But if you rock the vehicle back and forth a couple times, you'll see that actually move a little bit. Or if you get a clean screwdriver in there and swirl it around a little bit, you'll see it moving around. So it's actually pretty easy to spot. The times when it's hard to spot is when you have a lot of water in there. It's completely covering the bottom of the tank. I have seen that before, and it's pretty impressive. And so when we took the pump out, we looked down and was like, well, I don't see any water. And then the truck rocked a little bit. And then you saw just enough of it moving around. And it had that discoloration to it. So like, it didn't look right. And so with rocking the truck, we were able to see it move just enough. And sure enough, we got our suction hose down in there with our vacuum operated pump. And as soon as we started sucking it out, you can see the water just doing that right into the funnel of the tube. And so it's pretty neat to watch. And sure enough, there was a ton of water in there. And water does happen. There's an O-ring right here that we're going to replace. And we have that on the bench, and we'll get that when we're ready to go back in. Let's get this to the bench. All right, so the first thing you want to do when you get your pump out is you want to drain the fuel out of the pump, because that way when you're on the bench, you're not making a huge mess all over your bench there. So like I was saying before, you're going to have a bunch of fuel down in this container. This is where your filter is at, and this is where it takes in the suction, right up in here. And so it's going to be full of fuel. So what you do is just simply turn it over and drain it out. Don't dump it into a bucket and intend to reuse it. Just get rid of this. That's really not a lot of fuel. I know fuel's expensive these days. Anyway, you just don't put the old stuff back in there. And so just dump it out. I mean, you can if you want to, if you're super cheap. But. So what we're going to do now is we're going to organize our parts, get them situated. So here's our pump filter. If you look down in here, I don't know if you'll be able to see that or not, but there's a paper element in there, and that's what filters out the fuel. There's two filters on this actually. You have that one, and then in this pump kit, it comes with a strainer. And so that's what that is. And so that's down inside that as well. And so you have that. And then you have your different components. Little fuel hose, the connector, little grommets, clamps, some O-rings. We have the pump itself. And of course, the book of knowledge, or chaos, however you want to look at that. All right, there's our parts that are laid out. And well, of course you can't see them. There's our parts that are laid out. And so next step will be to disassemble. All right, so the very first thing you do is you have to disconnect the fuel sending unit from the pump. So the way you do that is this little tab right here bends out of the way, right there. And as you do that, this slides up. And as soon as it slides up, you take it on out. And what it has is it has this little notch right there. And it slides over that right there, and that's how it locks in. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to remove these tabs real gently like and start lifting it off the housing. Grab a couple picks. I'm going to use this to hold up in place. Or actually, sorry, I'm going to use this to hold up in place. So it feels like this filter inside is actually sucking it on. There might be a little grommet in there that's holding on to it. Oh, good grief. Can't imagine why it doesn't work. Look at all that grime. And sure enough, that's the culprit that was hanging us up. So that O-ring right in there, right there, that's what was keeping us from just pulling it out super easy. So we had just had to pry it up a little bit. Golly, look at all that dirt. I clean all this out. And so we'll do that. And there's your pickup, your strainer. And who knows what's inside all this filter, what got past the strainer and is in the filter now. In any case, this pump has seen better days. So now, roll it over, take those clips off. So I tell you what, they don't give you replacement clips, so don't lose those suckers. If you lose it, go find it. See those little clips right there, right where my thumb's at? Those are the clips that go flying and you have to go find them because they take off across the room. Yeah, it's just those little guys right there. So leave them in a safe space, safe spot. Safe space? What is this, a university? Looks like there's only one on there. Stuff's getting all over my hands. Oh, look at that. That connector just popped right off. Well, regardless, this is garbage. So we're just going to replace it like we normally would, and we'll be replacing that as well. And the bummer about that is that's not the side that they give you. This little pigtail they give you is that end. It's not that end. So now we got to figure out how to we got to figure out how to make that work, because otherwise it's not going to work. So hopefully we can have a pin somewhere and we can get that repaired. Always something. Oh yeah, that's broke. Yep, it's still up in there. Okay. Yeah, we'll have to find a connector. Holy cow, that stinks. We might wind up putting a aftermarket complete unit in this thing. Hopefully we can find that connector. A couple things happened with this pump. One is when we took it apart, as we're sliding this out, and there is no reason for it happening other than it's just rotting. This wire right here pulled out of this connector, and this is not a complete pin. This has broke off from the pin, the actual pin that slides onto the other pin on the inside of this connector here. And so, let's see, right there. And so it slides in there, and that pin is still inside this connector, So it's sheared. There's nothing we can do about that. We could probably take it out and try to solder it, but it's corroded and gross, and it's nasty. So we're not going to do anything with that. The other thing is, with the amount of junk that went through this pump, that's all through here, stuck in here, who knows how much actually made it through the filter inside and into the pump, and it just, who knows. And the other thing is, this regulator is mounted to the side of the pump as well, and it's all rusty and corroded on the outside. Who knows what it looks like on the inside. So I would not feel comfortable doing this job without replacing this for sure. And the connector is toast anyway. So I couldn't find one online anywhere. Toyota may have it, I don't know. But that would include replacing this part here as well, because, which we weren't originally going to do, because you guys probably won't be able to see this very well, but inside here, the bottom pin, it's actually melted at the plastic. Well, the metal's not melted, but the plastic is melted. And so that's not, oh, sorry, not the bottom one, the top one is melted there. So it's not a good thing anyway. And so you have to replace this as well. And so you wouldn't have to replace the sender per se, but you have to replace this part. So instead of thinking with all that, elected to go ahead and just go with the aftermarket fuel module, which is a complete assembly. And from the three part suppliers that I have readily available, only one offered a full assembled unit. And so that's this one here. So we're gonna give the old ProGrade a shot and see how it does. We don't really have any other choice. Like I said, Toyota doesn't offer a fully assembled unit, which means you got to piece it together, and piecing it together for what we have here on the bench. I looked at the invoice before, or the quote before I left to go pick this up, because it's late at night, so I had to actually go get it. The quote for these here were about $700, just over $700. So add on another, let's say, going by their pricing, another $100 or so for that. Now you're $800 into it, and then whatever the cost is for this regulator, if you're even able to get it through them, you probably can, but it's probably another $50, $60. You're going by their prices on the other stuff. So now you're looking at $1,000 for a pump. It's not feasible. So, and I know they don't have the budget for it, and it would be good just to go with the aftermarket pump, and it's got a lifetime warranty. So if it cruds out, then, well, it cruds out. And this part supplier does cover labor if it does go bad. To what percentage? That might be a battle, but they've done well in the past, and so who's to say that they won't again? So I'm not too worried about it, but in the end, this is kind of what we're left with anyway. So let's get this installed. So here's the replacement unit, fully assembled, sender and everything. I mean, just why can't Toyota offer something like that? All right, so we did wind up having a little bit of debris in the tank, and so we need to get that out of there, because we don't want the new pump, to be clogged up with that junk as well. So there's not a ton of it in there, just in a couple of spots here and there, so nothing big. I'm gonna try to get that on video for you guys. You won't be able to see it at the angle you're at now, so I'll drop the camera down and actually have it there, and flashlight in my mouth, so I won't be able to talk while I'm doing it. And at the same time, this thing is going to be making a bunch of noise with the air anyway, because it's air operated. So it's you're not going to be able to hear me say much anyway. So with that, we're going to use this to suck it out. We'll drop this in the tank and suck out the dirt that has gotten in there from the previous time. And so, and the reason why I say it's the previous time is because it's in clumps in different spots. It's not just kind of like you drop dirt in there and it just kind of filtered down and settled and got on the bottom, and just a bunch of little flakes everywhere. It's clumped up into different spots. So that means it's been sloshing around in there, and then it's kind of settled where was sloshing at. And so we should be able to suck that out pretty good with this. And so let's go ahead and give it a shot. All right, so sorry guys, I maneuvered the camera around to show getting the dirt out of it, and well, technical difficulty. I forgot to hit the play button or the record button. My bad. So sorry. Anyway, we did get the dirt out of it, and so like I said, there wasn't a ton of it, just little globs here and there. So now we're going to continue on. So here we are going to dismiss our old O-ring, and we're going to use our new one. And usually it's a good idea. Well, let's get some, there's a little bit of crud in there, so let's get that. Let's get that out. That can be a little tricky. Make sure it stays on the rag and not on the, not go down in the tank. All right, success. Okay, so generally it's a good idea, even if it's not a rotational thing. This pump just squeezes down on top of this O-ring. It's still a good idea to just give it a little slippage, just to help it seal better, and to just in case it does move on you while you're moving things around a little bit. And so just a little lithium grease, or in this case just a little bit of Vaseline, just to give it a little bit of a stickage and slippage, and helps it seal a little bit better too. So we'll do that. Okay, I did mark the top of the pump, because the next time somebody gets into this, like I said, if you go to your local parts stores, our vendors most of them are showing just the rebuild kits. And so with this pump, that may or may not work. So everything looks like it might be the same down in there. The connector here is definitely different. Instead of that having two connectors that go up in and clicking, they're just soldered in place. So that's definitely different. However, the two leads that we were supposed to replace, they wanted us to butt connect those in anyway. So maybe it might work, I don't know. But I wrote that on there just in case, so that way somebody comes across it, they see it, and they're like, maybe we won't mess with it. We'll just try to find a complete unit. And I put the name of the unit as well as the part number, and the vendor. So that way they know where to go to look for, at least they can go to the same place where I picked this one up at, and hopefully they can come across one. So, and if not, then they'll just have to research and see what they find. And if the rebuild kit works for these, then great. If not, then so be it. Anyway, hopefully that's quite a ways away from now. All right, so as we dive in, we're just going to carefully lower it down into the tank. And then you got to get the orientation right. We have a little notch here that has to go into the notch on the tank. And that's how we know our orientation is right for it to sit down in. All right, so we've got our pump in here. And what they want you to do is, there's two indicators on this ring. There's that there, and whatever that is, it doesn't say in the service information. However, it does mention this little blue triangle. And what they want you to do is a triangle right there that they want you to line that up with. And then once it's in, they want you to spin that 1.5 turns until that notch on the retainer lines up in between that min and max spot, where that little triangle is, right there in the middle. That's turn it half. Let me get this back on here. Oh, look at that. Just want to turn that pump. So just a little bit at a time. So it doesn't turn that pump. That was fun. Yeah. That is a tough fit. Problems. So what it does is, as the ring goes down, it wants to actually grab the pump and spin it beyond its orientation. And so one thing that I probably should have done was lube the underside of this ring with some little bit of grease, just to help it slide along the plastic, the top, you know, the plastic top of the pump itself, because you got plastic on plastic, just and so it's really tough. So you would, you got a full turn of it pretty easy, and then you get to about a turn and a quarter, and then it starts getting pretty tough. And what it wound up being was just a step. So, all right, so next on the list is to install our fuel line. Take off your cap. Push that in. Don't forget your fuel line retainer. Okay, you definitely want that to be there. Squeeze that in, boom, it's locked. Give it a tug test, always give it a tug. Make sure it's in line, it's locked in place. And now we are set to throw our connector on and our cover. So the thing is with this cover, there's nothing holding this cover down. There's no bolts, there's no latches, there's nothing. The only thing that's on here is this butyl tape. B-U-T-Y-L, I think is how it's spelled. Butyl tape. It's what you can use for some windshields and side windows, side glass, stuff like that. And what it is, it's kind of like an acoustic sealant. It's kind of spongy, and it's a rubbery, spongy membrane. And as you push down on it, it compresses, and then it holds, but it's also... All right, so here's your butyl tape. It's a good old 3M 08611. Maybe that's part of the part number, I don't know, but there you go. Just 5/16 inch round bead. It's a 15-foot section. However, I opened the box and turns out I got ripped off. So the box was taped. It wasn't glued down, it was taped down. So somebody's been in here, obviously, they snagged some butyl tape, put it back on the shelf, or returned it to the store after they used what they wanted. And actually, that looks pretty close to this, doesn't it? So who knows? There's shysters out there. Please don't do this. If you use it, just keep it. All right, so this has all been cleaned down with brake clean. The material, the lip on the car itself has been cleaned with the brake clean. And so now it's just a matter of following the pattern. You can see where it overlapped the previous one. And you just work it around. And like I said, this stuff is self-adhesive. It just kind of sticks to itself. And when you press it down on the car, it'll do the same thing. And that's all that holds it there. That's it. Nothing else. Nothing special about it. I would say nothing fancy about it, but it's kind of fancy. It's kind of a neat product. So just take it, and once you get to the overlap, probably should have overlapped that right there. That's all right, that's sealing pretty good. And you just break it apart. There you have it. So it's overlapped, no gaps, and now it's ready to go in the car. All right, so, however, what we want to do before we put it on the car is we want to do our series of tests. We want to make sure the pump runs. We want to make sure everything operates before we stick this down, because I mean, it's not a big deal to peel it back up, but then you might risk losing your butyl tape and have to use another section of it. So we'll run the pump, make sure there's no leaks. What you're looking for is making sure nothing's coming out of the pump itself, where we tighten that sucker down. Not this is not the seal for that. The pump itself, that's what you want to look for. And so that's just a verification, because you definitely don't want them going down the road and sloshing fuel and then all of a sudden they got fuel coming out of the top of that pump. That wouldn't be cool. So, and then of course you also want to check your fitting, your fuel line that goes onto the pump, and make sure it's not leaking from that O-ring that is on there. And here we go. Success. We're gonna run back here and check for leaks. And check out front for leaks as well. So no leaks down there where we hooked our pressure gauge to, and we don't have any leaks down here or back here. So that's good. All right, so no leaks this far. So we know our fuel line is good. We know our O-ring under the cap, under the pump is good. We know our cap is sealed down tight. We know it's where it's supposed to be. It's at. All right, so just putting your cover on, you just put it in place and just cinch it down. Anyway, cover's on, and then we'll do a test drive before we batten the seat down. And just in case we do wind up having something we have to readdress, and that way we can get to it a little bit easier and faster. All right, so with that, we'll sign off and we'll come back after our test run. All right, that's gonna do it for this one, guys. So we took it out, we topped off the fuel tank, road tested it, did some figure eights in the parking lot at one of the schools around here. And we didn't do donuts. We didn't do that with a customer's vehicle. We just did some figure eights, so that way we can get that fuel sloshing around in there. Anytime you do a fuel pump replacement, it's a good idea to fill up the fuel tank and get that fuel sloshing around up toward the top, so that way you can make sure you don't have any actual leaks there. We just did it the old school way, the way you guys would do it without having that scan tool. So fill it up, slosh it around, check for leaks, and did a nice, good road test with it. It's got good power, runs smooth, and there's no codes after that. So with that, why don't you go ahead and head down to the comment section and leave a note for us. We'd love to hear from you. So let me know if you have run into any other aftermarket fuel pumps that are at actual assembly. Haven't seen a bunch of them out there, and so that's kind of a bummer with this, because it's quite the operation to go in there and rebuild this thing and swap the pump out, because it's not just the pump itself, it's all these other components that go with it. So it's, you know, it is what it is, but it's nice when you can just have the module assembly and just boop, pop that sucker right in there and be on your way. It would be a lot faster, that's for sure. So anyway, be sure to subscribe, hit the like button, ring the bell, and that'll let you know when we have new content that comes out and gets posted. And let us know what you'd like to see. We're open to ideas there as well. So, all right, we'll see you on the next one. Take care.